Hello and welcome back everyone, we Weeb Online, and today I'm gonna continue the story What If Naruto Chose Darkness Part 3. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and to watch more videos like this, subscribe to my channel and turn that bell notification on so you never miss an upload. Now wasting no more time, let's begin.
Even though it was evident that the second Chunin exam test had gone completely crazy, it was a little too late to stop at that point. To make matters more difficult as usual, a large section of the Forest of Death was currently on fire. Another unintentional factor was that there was one of the strongest rogue ninjas in the world lurking around. When it ended, there would be a lot to discuss. It was the result of an entirely unheard of chain of events. Naruto observed the two experienced ninjas vanish into separate parts of the forest. He attempted to start running away from the flames, but the agony he felt inside told him that was a bad idea. I ever tell you how much I hate you. Whatever microcosm of hatred you feel towards me is nothing compared to what I have for you and your kind. He moaned and clutched his stomach with his free hand. Not only did the nine-tail rob him of skin, but its burst of chakra also fried his insides. In his condition, opposing teams could overwhelm him. His best option was to regroup with the rest of his team, but he wasn't sure if they would be stupid or foolish enough to go near another raging fire. He began to move and glance up at the fading sky. The tower then. I have the Earth Scroll, but they might think they can ambush a team for one, and the fire is only going to grow. Can't sleep. Someone will get the drop on me. If you just let me take care of it, you wouldn't be having these issues at all. With his blue eyes sharpened at the foliage ahead, he said, I told you I'd rather die, and I meant it. I'm never bowing down to you or anyone else ever again. Never begging and never giving up. I said I'm going to make everyone regret ever looking down on me. That includes you too. The beast with a tail sneered. Naruto continued into the forest, feeling almost always alone. He knew he was on the right track because some of his clones had already made it to the tower. He also remembered the topography, the wildlife, and any possible dangers. All he could hope was that his two teammates were getting lucky. When Sasuke mentioned fleeing after she caught the snake, Sakura took his advice to heart. She sensed the urgency when he mentioned that bit, even though he was already in a panic. She was relieved that her instincts were correct when she realized a large area of the forest had been reduced to a scorching wasteland. Holy fucking hell, she exclaimed, staring at the raging fire. She shook her head and rubbed her temples, saying, What kind of fire jutsu is that? I've seen him throw fireballs, not whatever this is. Naruto can create an army of himself, Sasuke can do this, and I can just make people see their worst fears. How do I even compare? Though it was posed at an awkward moment, the question was legitimate. Sakura inhaled deeply and said, Calm down, Sakura. She turned to face the tower and took off, saying, Think. Where should you go next? Sasuke has the Sky Scroll. That weirdo gave Naruto the Earth Scroll, and there is a massive fire that's going to keep growing. Her gaze flickered up at the lowering sky and said, That's the only safe place. I'm not sure if I can sleep with a fire going on, but I can set up optical illusions near it if I need to. She laughed. At least I can do that. When used against individuals with inferior senses, the capacity to cover up entire spaces with deceptive visuals was amazing. They couldn't, however, be too big or too near to anyone. To avoid being nullified, genjutsu had to be either incredibly simple or extremely complex. That's why even the most basic genjutsu could be used by anyone who could mold chakra, but only the very best at controlling chakra did. Sakura halted upon hearing something in the distance. If the fire had any merit, it made it easier for her to determine whether a sound wasn't quite right. Anything that was not going straight in a direction or towards safety stood out because everyone was running away from the catastrophe. Ascending the tree, she used her arms to shield her chakra by hooking them over the branches, and then she gestured with her hands to create an optical illusion of leaves beneath her. She confirmed with a sniff that the ash smell was strong enough to cover up her scent. Though she had all she needed, it would take time for her to accomplish her goal. She didn't know it, but overall, she was in better shape to arrive than her teammates. Even if she knew their conditions, she would still have faith in them. She was serious when she said they were unstoppable. Few people at Sasuke Uchiha's age could ever accomplish what he did that day. It was something in which he took great pride. It was also the cause of a generalized ill feeling that threatened to send him sprawling face first onto the forest floor. If there wasn't a raging fire that would eventually get big enough to burn him alive, he probably would. He stopped on a branch, swayed for a moment, and fell to one knee. "You were right, Kakashi. You were also wrong. Basics and fundamentals are nothing compared to the power of ninjutsu." He turned to face the two enlarging fires and said, "Just need to catch my breath, regroup with the others. The gate we came in is out of the question. Naruto is either running or fighting to the death alongside a Jonin right now, and Sakura won't go far on her own." He turned his gaze toward the forest's center. He got up on trembling legs and began jumping from branch to branch, saying, "It's the most open and dangerous area, but it's either that or being burned alive." The severity of chakra exhaustion, a dangerous medical condition, varied amongst ninjas. Some went into comas, some died instantly, Sakura spent a week in bed, and some were able to move but had many problems. After all, it was a depletion of both physical and mental energy combined into one. Although he was tempted to use the jutsu from Wave, he chose not to do so because he would have lost all of his remaining chakra if he had used it on a fireball. He didn't have the chakra to endure a weaker version even then. After training sessions with Naruto, he used up the majority of it to guarantee steady growth and prevent anything like the crystal ice mirror trap from working again. None of us are going to need saving ever again. We're going to get stronger, aren't we, Naruto? Sasuke was grinning. He almost fell off the next branch he came to, spinning to land back on it and plummeting into the earth. "You better meet us there, and you better be alive. I refuse to lose anyone else." Just as soon as I regain feeling in my legs. He thought for a minute before realizing that was not going to happen at that particular moment. His whole body protested, and he forced himself back up, saying, "Ah, fuck." After laughing, he said, "If I stay still, I'll weaken too much to move," and carried on. "If I move too much, I'll weaken too much to move." He had trouble with endurance all the time. It was just something he was missing. He was the same as a lightweight compared to Naruto, even though he most likely had the best conditioning in his class. Although working out with him was beneficial, their stamina gaps remained significant. When Kakashi stated that going on the attack was a better strategy than attempting to outlast him defensively, he wasn't incorrect. All he could hope was that it applied to his current conflict with himself. In retrospect, it was a bad idea to stroll through a forest full of ferocious creatures that could literally smell blood while oozing it. It's not as if he had much of an option there. Positively, he would have a valuable lesson to remember for the remainder of his life. A tiger with a twitchy nose sat a few feet in front of Naruto Uzumaki. "You've got to be kidding me," he said, pulling out a kunai from his pouch. "Well, let's get to it." The enormous feline leaped into the air, narrowly missing its intended victim by inches. Its prey straddled its midsection as it growled. It let out a howl of pain as the kunai's blade went through its throat. He continued stabbing, bobbing his head to prevent the tiger from biting him between its forelegs. "I have had the absolute worst day," he exclaimed. When it fell on its side, he didn't let up, saying, "Had to see that asshole Neji again, take another worthless test that amounted to nothing, get eaten by a snake, got insides turned outside, and now this." He rolled away, straightened himself, and continued to walk, saying, "Oh fuck off, I don't have time for this shit." Suppressing his irritated determination instead of giving in was more difficult, but it was still preferable than giving in. The next 5 minutes or so, there was a rustle in the foliage. Naruto let out a sigh. "I just killed a tiger, so I really don't care if you're a bear, a ninja, or an entire team." He looked up. "Oh shit, I really did kill a fucking tiger. Why didn't I take anything from it? No one's going to believe me." "I would," Kabuto said as he stepped out from behind the bushes. His eyes went over the wounded boy's body and said, "You made well over 100 shadow clones back in the classroom. Pretty sure killing a tiger is an easy feat to you. How are you even standing?" He gave the stranger a squint. "I don't have a scroll," he claimed, "and even if I did, I'd kill you if you tried to take it from me." He pointed at his whiskered cheek, which unintentionally revealed bloody muscle to its owner, saying, "No, seriously, your skin is gone. I'd give it a time frame of about 10 minutes. You should be going through shock right now." "What do you want?" Kabuto grimaced. "To help another Leaf Village shinobi out? I mean, you look like you're about to die. You need skin grafts, immediate medical attention." He raised his bloodied tiger killer kunai and said, "I slapped your cards out of your hand." Kabuto gave his head a quick rub. He pointed a thumb behind him and said, "I can't be mad at you when you look like a tortured prisoner of war, but I'll admit that kind of pissed me off. My team already has 2 scrolls. They're waiting for me by the tower." "Then why aren't you with them?" He turned toward the Orochimaru bonfire, which had now combined with the Sasuke snake fire, saying, "I wanted to observe the local wildlife. Before the fire burns this entire forest down. I'm a medic nin, so this is kind of my thing." Naruto continued to walk while holding his kunai up. "I'll know if you're trying to lead me away from the tower. I can stop your bleeding, which will keep you from going into shock. Just keep walking. I've made it this far, and I can make it even farther." Kabuto turned, shrugged, and followed. "All right." He continued for an additional 7 minutes when there was a thump from behind. He lifted the downed Naruto onto his back and said, "Thought so." He went through a number of hand signals and said, "You really are something else." His eyes grew wide as his chakra shaped over the boy's wounds, giving him a complete understanding of what they were. "How the hell were you conscious, much less alive?" he mocked, then made his way away. "Uzumaki, you would have lived even if I didn't come along, but you would have likely burned to death." It was fortunate for both of them that they met, rather than happening by accident. It was a lovely sight to see the forest of death ablaze at night. It was a massive natural preserve with lethal vegetation and wildlife. It was unquestionably one of the most famous, if least frequented, landmarks in Leaf Village. Perched atop a massive tree across the forest, Orochimaru took in the view. He pouted and looked to where the other fire had sprouted. Ah, the memories. "I saw so many interesting things today, but I didn't get to see the Uchiha boy prove himself." He sighed. He let himself fall back to the forest floor, leaning out of the way of a wind-enhanced shuriken and thinking, "Oh well, I have all the time in the world, and the Chunin exams aren't over yet." As Anko approached his position, he yelled, "I'm going to kill you." "Dear, please. You of all people, so long as you fight against yourself, can't strike me down." The kunoichi fell to the ground as a burning feeling went from her neck to her whole body. What? Clutching the area causing her discomfort, she shook her head. "No, no, 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 no." With a "oh yes," Orochimaru emerged from his hiding place. Looking at the black flame like markings spreading over her body, he asked, "You didn't think it could be sealed forever, did you?" He stroked his chin and said, "We spent so long perfecting it together. It's just as much yours as it is mine. You almost killed me with it. I was so proud of you." Anko released her grip on her neck, her eyes and skin turning gold as the marks completely engulfed her. In an instant, she bridged the gap between them, revealed a snake tongue and accompanying fangs, and ripped open his throat. "Let me fix that," she exclaimed. When he vanished in a cloud of smoke instead of collapsing to the ground, she hesitated. With a surround of "beautiful as the first time I saw it," Orochimaru's voice spoke. "Perfection you threw away. I'm glad I got to see it one more time." Her hair turned dark, then returned to its original purplish-black color as she ran a hand through it. "Damn it," she exclaimed, collapsing against a trunk and smashing her fist into it. "I let him goad me." There was no one else who knew her like him. She was not as familiar with him as his former allies had been. Even though one of them denied it, neither could murder the other for private reasons. He was sure that the drive that served Orochimaru could defeat him, but it needed something to reignite its fire. That would be amazing to witness, whether you were for or against him. When compared to the other parts of the forest, the center was the epitome of tranquility. It was the hub of team activity during the last few days of the second test, with scroll trading, bargaining, and even skirmishing to decide who got what instead of just killing. Only in the mediocre days, when teams became desperate, but not desperate enough to play, did violence truly reach it. For the first two, everyone usually just scampered around. Due to the ash and soot left over from a fourth of the forest burning during the night, it and the rest of the forest looked particularly horrible that morning. It was unlikely that the fire would go out very soon. Kabuto gave the young man on his back a quick glance. He'd slept through the whole night, and then some, to the point he was concerned the boy was in a coma. "We're here. You can wake up whenever you want, though." He hummed and turned to face the tower entrance. I could have sworn that was on the other side. To his right, foliage stirred. "You?" Sasuke Uchiha turned as he emerged from the bush, looking disheveled and dirty, holding a kunai. "What have you done?" He lowered himself to the point of almost collapsing. "Two?" He became lifeless. It seemed as though Sakura appeared from the side of the entrance and grabbed hold of him. She glared at Kabuto, saying, "Sasuke, why are you with Naruto?" I ran into him, and it seemed like he needed help. He grinned. With a frown, he gently placed the boy down, saying, "It's the least I could do for my fellow Leaf Shinobi, right? By all means, he should be dead." "Naruto," she said, her eyes welling with tears as she saw the exposed sinew and muscle on his limbs and face. His azure eyes opened, then blinked upon seeing his allies. "Huh?" he asked, reaching for the scroll in his pouch as his eyes grew wide. He took it out and held it up so they could see it, and a sigh of relief left his lips. "You didn't give up the scroll of heaven, did you?" With a forced smile, Sasuke pulled it out. "Should worry more about yourself." With a hefty upper body, Naruto pushed himself up and stretched his shoulders, saying, "Please. You look like shit." "Boys, you both look terrible," Sakura remarked, using her free hand to dab at her tears. "The three of you should rush in before any would-be onlookers decide to steal from you," Kabuto stated. He peered at the foliage all around. He waved and left, saying, "Doesn't seem to be anyone else here, but I wouldn't risk it in your current state. I'm going to find my team." Naruto took a step forward and fell, saying, "Thanks, I guess." Sakura caught him with her other shoulder, much to his surprise. "Hey." She chuckled. "Was I supposed to just let you fall, dumbass? You should know me enough by now. I don't want to rely on other people." "Well, you certainly have to," Sasuke remarked. "I don't like it either, but the alternative is worse." As they started to approach the tower entrance, Naruto grimaced. "What hell happened with the giant snake?" Sakura joked. "Sasuke burned down the forest." He gave a nod. He was on the verge of laughing, but the pain in his body prevented him from saying, "She trapped it, and I blew it away." "I might need a more efficient jutsu," Naruto remarked. "Overkill much?" This coming from the guy who created over 100 clones to tell everyone he was going to beat them, Sakura inquired. He laughed. "I actually did create over 100 to really beat them." He grumbled. "That asshole fed to me a snake." Sakura let them in by opening the door. "How long are you going to hold on to that?" "That asshole fed me to a fucking snake," Sasuke remarked. "He almost did the same with us." Naruto shuddered. "I was inside it, that thing's stomach, and then I was covered in its guts." The other two said "Yuwa" simultaneously. They forced open a door to their right and went inside, finding themselves in an empty hallway with doors on either side that overlooked corridors. There was a single bulletin with a riddle on the wall between them. Sakura hummed and said, "Heaven and earth, huh?" I guess we should open the scrolls now. Naruto and Sasuke both unlocked their scrolls. He winced and said, "It's a summoning jutsu." Naruto, throw it. When they threw them to the ground, a cloud of smoke appeared. Half hidden in the shroud, Iruka exclaimed, "Hey!" His eyes grew wide as he spoke, "Long time. What the hell happened to you?" He averted his gaze. He blinked and gave him a look, saying, "It's nothing, Iruka-sensei." "Why are you here?" "To keep track of who disobeyed and who complied with the rules," Sasuke stated, peering through the exam. Iruka scowled. "I asked so I could have the chance to check up on you. Especially you, Naruto." His hands were balled into fists. He yelled, "Stop it!" as he released Sakura and stumbled forward, almost toppling over. "Stop with your fucking pity. I don't need you to feel bad or worry about me." "Naruto," said Sakura, "he just cares about you. I mean, we can see your insides for fuck's sake." "I'm not talking about that," he exclaimed as he approached the man and poked him in the stomach. "When I killed Mizuki, you just looked at me like I was some kind of kid. You, Kakashi, and Old Man Hawkage keep walking on eggshells with me when I faced down a Jonin, killed people, and made it to this point while still expecting me to do all of those things," he grumbled. "What hell do you want from me?" "I just want you to be okay. I'm sorry I didn't make it clear enough." Naruto took a few moments to remain motionless and then retreated. He raised his hand to massage the back of his head and said, "Well, the warmth in his chest made him want to cry, but he said, "I'm fine, all right? Can we just move on with this?" With a smile, Iruka nodded. "You guys made it here early. You've got a few days to rest, so I advise getting acquainted with the quarters." He sighed. "We have Medic Nin, but I think you need extensive care, Naruto." He took a step back and collapsed. "Iruka-sensei, I'm fine. I always get back up," he said. Sasuke gave a headshake. "You try really hard to be cool, even when you shouldn't." Iruka picked up his delinquent student and guided them through the tower, saying, "I'll help you get there." Kabuto and his group were in the room next to Team 7 in front of a distinctive face, while they arranged themselves in their temporary surroundings. Kabuto shook his head at the recollection. "I can see why you're interested, Lord Orochimaru. That boy's body is inhuman." The man gave a nod. "A shame it lacks beauty. Perhaps in a few more years, Minato and Kushina were lovely to look at." He turned to his agent. "I don't suppose you mind playing for a little longer?" "I serve according to your will, Lord Orochimaru, but you know how I get." "Oh, I know. I doubt you will be of much use for my next step anyway." He grinned. "Still, I want to have you around, Kabuto. There's no one else I'd want to act as my eyes and ears." Kabuto disregarded his masked comrade's envious glance. "I will, Lord Orochimaru." With pursed lips, Orochimaru said, "Then there's the Uchiha. Did you really not see the jutsu that caused the fire?" "Unfortunately, no." With a gesture of departure, he said, "What a shame." There were favorable, mitigating factors as well as those that made Naruto Uzumaki an excellent choice to be his vessel. Beauty was important, but he could change his appearance to appear more attractive. The boy himself was able to fend off the nine-tailed fox, so someone similar to him could too. Until he demonstrated that it could be defeated, the tailed beast factor outweighed his seemingly limitless chakra pool and ridiculous vitality. He was impressionable and power-hungry, just like Sasuke, but unlike Sasuke, he wanted recognition even from his rivals. That's what would entice him to come closer. One of the most dangerous and sought-after missing nin in the world, Orochimaru, made a big appearance at an international military event, destroyed a genin team, and played with 2 Jonin-level ninja before going missing. The biggest thing for the Leaf Village, really, since the Uchiha massacre. That's why as soon as they regained their bearings, Team 7, their team leader, and the 2 ninja found themselves in front of the Hokage in his tower room. "What we discuss here does not leave this room, and you are forbidden to speak of," Sarutobi stated. "Now, tell me what happened." First, that asshole fed me to a snake, declared Naruto, who was covered in bandages like a mummy. Sasuke, who was on crutches, grimaced. He approached me pretending to be Naruto, but he couldn't tell me what his old nickname for me was. Fakira winced at the memory. Either he trapped us in a genjutsu we couldn't break out of, or his intent to kill us was just that strong. I tried to put him in a few when we snapped out of it, but he saw through everyone. Then he wiped the floor with us, Sasuke conceded. Naruto scowled, and Sasuke actually let him make him his bitch. I swooped in to kick his ass, but he summoned another, bigger snake. Fakira took a swallow. Under the scrutinizing gaze of her elders, she stammered, "Then Naruto. He did something that made him. He had a red cloak of chakra around him that ate through anything that wasn't him or what he was wearing," Sasuke continued. He gave a perplexed look upon seeing the recognition in their eyes. Naruto asked, "Do you want to tell them or should I?" He turned to face every adult in the space. He stepped forward a few steps and turned to face his teammates, saying, "Really? Okay. I was born on October 10th, 13 years ago." "No way," Sakura exclaimed, her thoughts racing. "Yeah, it's something along the lines of what you're thinking." He let out a sigh. "The yellow dipshit didn't kill the nine-tailed fox. He put him inside me. I'm a Jinchuriki, a human sacrifice, and I had to hear it from fucking slimy fuck Mizuki of all people," he claimed. Sasuke's eyes widened as he observed the unfazed faces surrounding him. "You knew the entire time?" Naruto remarked, "Everyone did, the adults at least. Just never had the balls to actually tell me." "I prohibited it," explained Sarutobi. He looked up at him. "Oh yes, like that fucking helped." "Naruto," exclaimed his sensei. Folding his hands together, Sarutobi said, "It's okay, Kakashi." "What did he do?" Naruto remarked, "He weakened the seal." He pointed to his bandages and said, "I almost lost it, but I pushed back, tried fighting him again. All the fox chakra did this to me, so I couldn't do shit. Still, he gave me the earth scroll and sixed the snake on the rest of my team." Enko pointed a thumb at Tenzo and said, "That's when I came in, and then this guy who did nothing about the snake." Tenzo objected, saying, "Orochimaru took priority and you did nothing about it too." She gave him a glance. "You weren't there for Orochimaru, I was. If you knew it was Orochimaru, you would have stopped him far before he entered the forest of death." "Enko," stated Sarutobi. Sakura cited guy in the green cat mask. Sasuke gave a nod. "Anbu, permission from the Hokage." He bowed his head in the direction of the only other individual worth keeping an eye on. Naruto said, "Did you have me followed?" He nodded, his eyes flickering red. "Just what am I to you?" Kakashi's eyes became icy. "Naruto." Giving the Jonin a sly glance, Sarutobi returned his attention to his charge. "I know you're angry." If the Hokage hadn't shook his head, Tenzo would have been forced to use a jutsu as the cloak quickly bubbled over him. It vanished in an instant. "This is me when I'm angry." He sent a blue glare into the old man's startled brown eyes. He lifted an arm to address the Anbu and said, "I'm frustrated with you. Over and over again, you pull this loving grandpa shit with me. Then you have me watched like I'm some pet going feral. You act like you care about me, but you keep secrets hidden away I have to learn from people trying to hurt me. Do you really expect me to trust you? Do you really expect me to believe you?" Sarutobi's expression showed no emotion as he said, "No, I understand, and I offer no excuses. You will always be the boy I ate fish with in the forest." Naruto laughed bitterly, but happily. He looked down. "That was a long time ago. Is who I am now really so bad?" He smiled at the boy's blush and said, "I am proud of you. It took strength to get this far, to endure Orochimaru, and to bear the 9 tails. I only wish to see you happy or at peace, but the path you chose, the path that was decided for you on the day you were born, doesn't encourage either state in anyone." Tenzo cleared his throat. "Forgive me, Lord Hokage. I know you two are having a moment, but Orochimaru said if the Chunin exams were cancelled or if Naruto was disqualified, he'd destroy the village." Said Hokage looked at him along with the others. "I've never known Orochimaru to make idle threats. He likely has something greater planned than simple meddling." He returned his attention to Naruto. "Perhaps he intends to break the seal. I think he just wanted to see if I could use the chakra or if it was using me." He sighed. "I don't want anything to do with it, especially if it's going to burn my freaking skin off." "Then all I'm left wondering is whose brilliant idea was it to burn the forest down?" "I apologize," Sasuke said, rubbing the back of his head with his hand. "To be fair, I was being chased by a giant snake." To Anko's dismay, Tenzo raised a hand and said, "I am also responsible. I believed I had trapped Orochimaru and insisted the proctor use fire and wind-style jutsu to incinerate him." "Test tube, jackass," she said in a low voice. Naruto laughed. He gave a sidelong glance at Kakashi and said, "It was pretty awesome. Can you teach me how to do that too?" Someone here thinks spitting fire and shooting lightning isn't jackshit compared to the basics. Maybe he should have been around to show us how fundamentals do against a giant snake in comparison to a stream of fire, Sasuke continued. "Well, I didn't mean basics and fundamentals would get you far against a giant snake now, did I?" Kakashi turned to Anko. "And if you're tired of giant snakes and regular snakes, you might want to try getting a different teacher." Naruto's gaze narrowed to her semi-bare breasts. I can put up with it." Sakura narrowed her eyes and said, "Naruto." Still staring at her and not really listening, he asked, "What?" He frowned as she moved into his field of vision. "What? Were you ever going to tell us?" "No, I didn't want to drive any of you away." He blushed as he glanced from worried teammate face to worried teammate face. "People have looked at me like I'm a piece of shit for it my entire life, okay? Everyone is now free to depart," Sarutobi declared. "The Chunin exams are still on, right? We didn't go through all of that shit just to get sidelined partway through," Naruto asked, turning to face the elderly man. "Of course they're still on. I have nearly every village anyone's ever heard of participating in this event. We can't afford to cancel it now." He turned, took a step, and fell, saying, "Good." Sasuke chuckled. Then he thumped against the floor and joined him, saying, "Not a good place to sleep." Sakura picked up an unconscious Sasuke and exclaimed, "I told you too it was too soon." After rolling his only good eye, Kakashi gave Naruto the same treatment. Competing with each other for who can stay conscious longer, you two don't know when to give up. They'd have a day or two to heal. It was highly unlikely that either would be in a suitable state to engage in combat. The normal time was a month, but this was one of the most unusual Chunin exams in shinobi history. Inside the tower's beige sleeping quarters, Naruto and Sasuke were asleep. They had eaten in the mess hall earlier, but afterward they almost passed out. While the other was understandably exhausted, the other was recuperating from severe organ damage. They could at least eat and prevent malnutrition, which is the leading cause of death among the ill. Beside the bandaged boy who was stirring, Anko sat on an empty bed. "Hello, sleepyhead. Were you watching me?" Stepping to his side, she stood and said, "Watching out for you." She arched an eyebrow at his curious expression and said, "Orochimaru obviously has some interest in you, and I know him. He likes to toy with others, especially people he's interested in. He was my sensei." "Oh." His gaze shifted to her fishnet-clad chest, the portion that was visible through her coat. "Interesting." She laughed and parted it to give him a full view of them. "Aren't you a spirited little bastard?" she asked. Naruto leapt up, his eyes going wide. "Am I dreaming? Because I really don't want to wake up if I am." With reddening cheeks, Anko grabbed his hands by the wrists and moved them to her breasts. He looked amazed and she smiled. "You're awake." I thought you earned something a little more than just a proud of you from old man Hawkage. Don't be shy, I've seen you staring since my entrance. He gave a squeeze. Then he made a murmur by pulling on one and pushing the other. Reverting to neutral, he raised and lowered them to gauge their mass. His fingers, which had been partially wrapped, closed around the nubs and then rubbed.
Simple, she muttered. She exhaled deeply and sighed. You're getting me fired up now.
That only made him more agitated. He pressed his thumb down on one, squeezing it toward the point, and held the other one normally. He began to shudder at the thought of her eyes and her desire for more. From the entrance, Kakashi yelled, "Naruto," with Sakura by his side, looking shocked and flushed. Even as she froze in shame, he continued, "Yeah?" His gaze narrowed at the woman. "Can I borrow Anko for a moment? It's important. We're in the middle of something." "Now, Naruto," he said in a tone that did not allow for rebuttal. Anko ended things when she realized he was too infatuated. She left him reaching for the air, her presence still fresh in his memory. "Sorry, kid, I have to go." The adults filed out of the room and down the corridors. When he was sufficiently far away, Kakashi turned and pushed his associate into the wall. "What the hell were you thinking?" "Yes," was Naruto's triumphant cry, resonating throughout the tower. It took their minds off the immediate issue for a little while. "I wasn't." She held one between them while scratching the back of her head with the other. "But he is a ninja and an adult by the laws of our village." He didn't understand then, but he understood now. "Anko, for the love of all that is decent, do not fuck my dead mentor's only child." His latent parenting instincts were awoken when he saw his adorable punk student with a woman far above his senior year. She scowled. She blinked. "Oh, I see. I'm no good for him, am I?" That came out wrong. Kakashi stepped back and shook his head, saying, "Just. He's not ready for that kind of relationship. I know you'd get along with him, but he doesn't need romance. He needs guidance." She laughed and said, "I understand." "Holy shit, I've never seen you anywhere near this emotional before. He really is important to you, huh?" His gaze lowered. "I held him when he was just a baby," starting to realize it was a mistake to let him go so soon. "Awa, I'll take good care of him for you." "Don't push it." She was intrigued by his similar personality and worried about the child. She did go beyond what was appropriate, but she didn't mean any harm. Even though Kakashi knew that, he was still understandably cautious. Men and women were able to develop feelings for one another far too easily. Neither of them could be relied upon to avoid them, in his opinion. Though he would have been okay with that if Rin and Obaido had survived, he was positive that the chaotic love triangle they were involved in would eventually bring their team to an end. Sarutobi was attempting to spend time with Naruto while the test was still in progress, but Tenzo and political matters so rudely interrupted their private moment. They were not so much playing shogi as they were failing at teaching and learning the game. One of them detested rules, and it was a complicated game. Waving his bandaged legs in the air, Naruto lay flat on his stomach and said, "King this, pawn that. Can't you just show me a jutsu or something?" That wouldn't be fair to the other contestants, now would it? He rolled his eyes. Did they have to fight some weird, creepy snake guy above Jonin? Naruto. Sarutobi was happy that they had his room to themselves. Be careful who you spill your secrets to. If only he knew what you are keeping from him. I guess keeping who my parents were from me is one of those for you, huh? Your mother asked me to take care of you. My mother, Naruto asked, staring at the elderly man as he attempted to stand up too quickly and fell back against the earth. He scowled and said, I had a mom. What about my dad? They loved you very much. Gritting his teeth, he exclaimed, Cut the bullshit, old man. Why won't you tell me who they are? If you really cared about me, you'd tell me. Naruto, Sarutobi exclaimed. He gave a headshake. Quit jerking me around. I can't stand this. You're still flip-flopping between grandpa and dictator. Am I a pawn or someone you actually care about, King? Did the yellow dipshit take me from my parents? Is that why you can't tell me? He truly didn't know if he could tell him everything he wanted to. This isn't easy for me either. I care for you, but I must care for the village as well, he sighed. And to care for the village means treating you as a weapon. With his voice breaking, Naruto charged, "So you love them more than me." His hands clenched into fists. All of those people that look at me like I'm a piece of garbage when I'm the reason they're alive in the first place. He knew that revealing the truth to him would destroy both the village and him, so he said, "It's not so simple. There are responsibilities I have to the village and responsibilities I have towards you. Both are important, but I must choose one over the other from time to time. When is it ever going to be me? It's been you whenever you've misbehaved." The shogi board was thrown aside by Naruto. He got up, tears falling from his eyes, saying, "So it's only me when it matters to other people, huh?" He laughed and shook his head. "Am I just some burden to you? Some defective weapon?" "Died. I feel so alone when I'm with you, and I feel so much pain when I'm happy because I don't know if it's even real." His lips parted. "It hurts so much that I hate it." Raising his body, Sarutobi gave him a hug. "I'm really sorry, Naruto." He began to cry. "I fear things will never change between us. If you can believe one thing I say, please believe that I love you." "I want to, but I don't know if I can." Between them, that was the sincere truth. It was a long time coming to have that conversation. They had it for better or ill. Sarutobi was never going to be his son, nor could he ever be his father. That was their life's circumstances. The tower's corridors were eerily deserted. If they weren't so close together, it would be okay. There was something unsettling about the stark whiteness of it all, even though there was a deadly burning forest all around them. Nobody was expected to stay for very long. Temari leaned against a nearby wall and asked, "What do we have here?" She scowled at the boy wearing orange and blue bandages as he made his way to the mess hall. "If it isn't the jerk who touched my body without permission." Naruto gave a nod. "I meant what I said. You have a nice ass but me tits." She started to unfold her fan, but was stopped by the sand that coiled around her arms. "Gee, Gaara." The boy with red hair appeared a few feet ahead of him and said, "Shut up." He willed the sand to release her, and it did. "Even now, you can't beat him, so stop embarrassing yourself. Leave us." She sprinted back to her team's quarters, saying, "Sure." Naruto asked, "Do you want to fight here?" Because Old Man Hawkage would definitely interfere and kick both of our asses. They don't call him the god of shinobi for nothing. He had his eyes fixed on his. "I felt something the other day. When I did, for a moment, a voice inside me that only screamed for violence faltered." Naruto chuckled, realizing that the boy was the only thing capable of igniting the beast inside of him. "Voice? I knew I wasn't the only one. Is yours an asshole too? It wants me to kill you more than anyone else here, but I want to kill you for myself. Not in 1,000 years, you one-tailed runt. Kill him first." He rolled his eyes. "Now mine wants me to kill you. Why don't we just leave each other be instead of giving them what they want?" "I want to kill you," was Gaara's matter-of-fact response. Naruto walked past him carelessly and in the direction of the mess hall, saying, "Fuck you too. Just know, when I'm beating the absolute shit out of you, I wanted to be left alone." Little did either realize how similar they were. In their quarters, Team 7 was consuming their meals. The newly arrived Sound Team could not look more sinister. The Sand Team was antagonistic, Kabuto's team was withdrawn, and Naruto vehemently opposed being around his first-year classmates who also failed. The fact that over 50% of them required rest was helpful. Naruto said, "Can we not talk about it?" Sakura gave a headshake. "How can we not?" Sasuke sat on his bed and said, "I know you're uncomfortable talking about it, but we still need to talk about it. You're a Jinchuriki. Old man Hawkage said we're forbidden to speak about that. He gave him a quick glance. Since when have you cared about what the Hawkage told you to do? Reluctantly, Naruto stuck his chopsticks into his bowl of rice and ate something other than ramen, saying, "Well, I don't want to talk about it. I want things to be normal between us. No walking around eggshells with me." It would be walking around eggshells if we didn't talk about it. He let out a moan. "What do you want me to say? It's not something I have any control over." He sighed. "Ever since Wave, I've needed to keep down my anger or else it'd come out. I have to admit that's really helped me, but it's tiring when I'm used to feeling angry."
Sasuke plunged his chopsticks into his bowl and said, "What you did to that wall back in the academy. That was its power, right?"
"I lost it when I heard that prick Neji, yeah," Sakura murmured. "What happened between you two? That's my business, like this entire topic. As a team, we are all impacted by your actions," stated Sasuke. "Besides, Orochimaru came after us because you're a Jinchuriki. He fed me to a snake. I'm pretty sure he was just fucking with us and planned to fuck with the other teams. I just got his interest because I could keep down the 9 tails after he weakened the seal." Sakura inquired once more, "But what happened between you and Neji?" Naruto replied, "I just detest that dumb asshole and everything he stands for." "And that's?" He consumed a few rice-filled chopsticks. "Wait until he opens his mouth. The moment you hear him go on a monologue, you'll understand. Hell, you'll probably hate him too." Sasuke inquired, "What about Rock Lee and the woman?" "Bushy brows is annoying, but I can respect his drive, and I can barely remember the chick." Sakura gave him a squint. He nodded, and she grimaced. "I'm sure you'd remember her if she had big boobs." "I'm still in shock," she said, her face flushing. "That woman let you do that." Sasuke turned to face Naruto, who was kneading the air, and asked, "Do what? What happened?" Sakura whimpered, "Sasuke." She wanted to cry. That crazy proctor lady let him touch her boobs. She's going to take Naruto away. "What?" Naruto nearly slobbered. "They were so soft. The mesh was in the way, but I could feel enough." He was shaking.
"Might actually have a chance."
"She is at least a decade older than you. And I killed a freaking tiger after getting all fucked up. I deserve something." Sakura shook her head, saying, "He's growing up. Just yesterday, it was like he jumped through that window. It was the one time." Sasuke scowled. "You still did it." Naruto complained and went back to eating. Their recent problems served to strengthen their bond. They probably wouldn't have broken up so quickly over a secret that most people were already aware of. It was only they who could have caused them to part. They had only really been together for about 2 months, but already they felt like family. Compared to the previous 3 days, the last 2 in the tower were comparatively quiet. There was little reason for most teams to stay in the mess hall, so they began bringing their meals to their quarters. Numerous times, the Hawkage traveled to Naruto and vice versa. As Tenzo, Anko, and Kakashi moved to keep a safe distance from Team 7, they kept an eye out for any movement from Orochimaru. Nevertheless, the Forest of Death had burned half to ashes by the time it ran out. The body of Kakashi flickered into their room. The second test is over. Lord Hawkage would like to address everyone who passed at the arena. His body began to glow. "It's about damn time," Naruto exclaimed, quickly rolling out of bed and onto the ground. With the help of his crutches, Sasuke slowly got off his. "Let's see if we encounter more giant snakes in the next test." "Avoid jinxing it," Sakura urged. Being the least tired and comparatively unscathed, she guided the other 2 to their destination. They were the last to arrive because of their injuries. At the farthest end of the room were 2 arms in a hand seal. At the center of the slightly raised platform stood the Hawkage, surrounded by Jin Sensei and Chunin proctors. In front of them were the 7 surviving genin teams. Kiba smelled them first and was the first to turn back to see them. He grimaced and said, "There they are. Fucked up like I thought." When Hinata saw him wearing bandages, she almost passed out. "Naruto?" she asked. What happened to you?" "Considering he smells like tiger blood and snake, I'm guessing he got put through the ringer." Naruto sneered. He looked at the nervous girl and said, "Please, both of those were an afterthought." "What's up with you?" Shikamaru gave a headshake. "Troublesome." Sasuke, Ino practically sobbed. "Your asshole teammate made an army of himself, and my asshole teammates made me transform into him, but that's nothing compared to the pain of seeing you like this." Kiba gave a headshake. "You were talking all that good shit, but your team came out the worst." "I'd tell you why, but the Hokage forbade us from speaking of it," Sasuke replied. Sakura gave a shrug. "No big deal. We made it here anyway, sooner than you guys too." The other two rookie teams gaped at them. Rock Lee's group leader, Might Guy, chuckled. "Your team's acting all tough despite being wounded, Kakashi, but my team's almost unscathed. Youth time is sweet and sometimes sour, my rival." Kakashi turned to face him. "Huh? You say something?" As the man's mood shifted, Naruto comforted him. His own attitude soured when he looked at the other male student of the Jonin. "Oh man, that was great." Every genin who wasn't with Gaara, Kabuto, or the Sound team immediately made room, their rivalry smothering the life of the unprepared. Neither had made a statement. It only took one glance to incite hostility between two longtime rivals. Anko broke their intense stare with, "Congratulations on passing the second test. Lord Hokage will now explain the third test." She blushed and winked as Naruto gave her a little wave. That was not overlooked. Asuma and Guy saw Kakashi give her a shady look with his eye. Appearing as a Sound Jonin, Orochimaru nearly licked his lips upon realizing that his former pupil was getting along with him a bit too well. Hinata twitched, seeing only the exchange between the two. She heard her Byakugan go off a second later. She closed her hand into a fist and turned it off. Naruto seldom waved at people in that way, but she knew what her blushing gesture indicated. She hated and was angry at someone who wasn't herself for the first time in her life. Nearly all of it could be smelled, and Kiba began to regret being born an Inusuka. "Before I explain, I would like to tell you all the reason for this exam," Sir Tobai responded. He explained to them how it served as a unifying force and a platform for rivalry among the villages. "This is a life-risking battle with your goals and village prestige on the line." "Whatever it is, I don't care," Gaara declared. "Just hurry up and tell us about these life-risking battles." Naruto gestured with his thumb at the other Jinchuriki. "I'm with Fire Crotch. Enough with the love and peace through violence bullshit. Let's kill each other." Before them, a sickly Jonin figure was kneeling in front of the Hokage. "Lord Hokage, I apologize. As the referee, may I explain?" "Hayate by all means," Sarutobi declared. "Hello everyone, I'm Hayate Gecko," he said, clearing his throat. "I need you to undergo a preliminary to decide who gets to continue before the third test." "Initial? You're telling me the Forest of Death wasn't enough?" Shikamaru mocked. "Too many people are still here. We have to reduce the number of guests because we will have guests from all over the world for a limited time. This year's lineup has been extraordinary," Hayate coughed. "You are free to give up if you are feeling down or unhappy." "As of right now," Kiba cried out. Almost everyone turned their attention to Naruto and Sasuke when the man nodded. "I swear, if the old man and his Jonin weren't looking at us, I'd stab the ever-loving shit out of all of you right now," said Naruto. "Even if I were missing limbs, I could still run through half of you," Sasuke said, shaking his head. Breaking the focus from them, Kabuto declared, "I'm going to quit. I don't think I'm cut out for this year." He laughed at Naruto's contemptuous expression. "You guys are just too much for me." He repressed laughter at the boy's gleeful smugness. Hayate coughed and nodded, saying, "All right, you can go. Who else?" His response was silence. "Okay, let's get started. Now that there are 20 of you, There will be 10 matches in which you will battle one-on-one against other ninjas. The winners of each match advance to the next test. There are not any guidelines. The fight will go on until I declare a winner, or until one of you is knocked out, dead, or concedes defeat. Coughing, he turned to face behind him. No need to add to the body count. Open it, Anko ordered, causing a panel above the small stage to split apart and reveal an electric screen that would show the pairings for each fight. Let's see who fights first. It said, Sasuke Uchiha vs Yoroi Akado on the screen. Everyone except for those two walk up on to the balcony. When Sakura noticed that everyone else was moving, he tried to take his crutches, but he shook his head, saying, "Huh?" Sasuke remarked, "This will be over with soon enough." Sakura, hurry up. This is Sasuke that we are discussing, Naruto chuckled. I have no idea who the other guy is. Under his mask, Yoroi scowled and said, I'm standing right here. To the amusement and annoyance of some, he walked over to the closest wall and used his chakra to walk up and over the railing. And I don't give a fuck. Sakura grinned confidently as she nodded to him and proceeded to walk to the spectator positions with her other teammate, flaunting themselves. You're really rubbing off on everyone, Naruto, Kakashi said, flicking his body to the side, and literally rubbing some you shouldn't. Laughing, he said, You're not my dad. His pat on the head made him blush. Well, I'm the best you've got, and father knows best. Beside the sound team, Orochimaru watched with curiosity. The fight was probably going to end quickly because Sasuke was chakra exhausted and his opponent's abilities only made it worse. He was curious about how Naruto acted around people he cared about, and he was also curious about how he reacted to Neji Hyuga. The intense animosity should have caused the fox's chakra to awaken, but Naruto's will was evidently strong. Hayate addressed the opposing ninja, saying, Now, please begin. Chakra exhaustion, right? Yoroi laughed. This will be, he said, taking a step forward and raising his hand, but was interrupted by a crutch's tip rising into his chin. Keeping his other leg planted, Sasuke advanced a step before slamming the tip into his throat. Yoroi took a step back to catch his breath, but there was no time for him to brace himself for a drop kick to the face assisted by a crutch. Unlike most people, Naruto did not gape in shock, but instead held on to his sides and laughed. I tried beating the shit out of him for nearly 6 years, he said. Were you really expecting it to be that simple? Yoroi threw out his arm and ran forward. Sasuke simply threw the crutch he had used to batter him over, hooking his limb. Using his other crutch as support, he launched himself over the trapped arm and locked his opponent's neck with his legs. Grabbing the forearm with both hands, he snapped it using the crutch handle to help with hyperextension. Letting go of the man completely, he caught himself from falling, and the sharp pain from his condition made him realize how limited he was. Gritting his teeth, he got to his feet without the aid of crutches and retreated from his opponent. Yoroi attempted to raise himself with his good hand, but it was difficult due to his minor concussion from a blow to the chin, broken limb shock, and bruised throat. You were saying something? Sasuke charged forward and delivered a soccer kick to his jaw, knocking him back down. The victor is, Hayate raised an arm in the still standing boy's direction. Sasuke Uchiha. Like there's any other way for it to end. Naruto gave a cheer. With a sly smile, Sakura nodded. That's our Sasuke for you. He wasn't kidding, Shikamaru whispered. It's going to be really difficult to face any of them. Beside a troubled Kiba, Hinata hummed, That's the level Naruto is close to. Orochimaru was pretty quick to write off Sasuke for not being like Itachi, but that wasn't the case. He'd come on far too hard against someone who wasn't pushed as much as his brother was. Orochimaru pouted, gaping at the outcome. It really was a missed opportunity. The fallen leaf ninja was placed on a stretcher by medical ninja who said, Sasuke Uchiha, let us treat you. He turned to go towards the balcony his team was on and fell, saying, I'm afraid you already did. Don't worry. Kakashi caught him with his back as he flickered over. This one is too obstinate to succumb to a minor setback like chakra fatigue. He flickered back to the balcony and placed him down. "Come on, Sasuke," Naruto replied. "At least be awake to watch my match." "Me too," Sakura added her 2 cents. Leaning against the balcony wall, he said to his fellow male team member, "You're like kids, and your condition is even worse than mine. Please, I can keep going even if my guts were out." Sakura winced. "We are aware. It appears as though you wish to die." "There are fates worse than death, right?" Naruto patted her on the head. "I'd rather die than fail myself again," he said with an honest smile. "Like getting captured by your enemy or stuck in a place where you're going to die without any food or water." Pointing to the screen, Kakashi remarked, "That's awfully selfish of you. When it comes down to it, they're announcing the next match." Zaku Abumi vs Shino Aburame was shown. Have any of you ever witnessed Shino fight in person? Raising an eyebrow at the noticeable ninja boy heading towards the arena, Naruto questioned. "Well, no, actually," Sakura murmured. "I remember being freaked out by him one time in the academy, but I can't really remember why." "He comes from a small clan," Sasuke continued. "The Aburame are a stoic and reclusive group," Kakashi said, nodding. "They are distinctive, but it's difficult to find one that's chatty. Excellent to collaborate with, though. Their kids are professionals as well." "It sounds like he has a Kekai Genkai. Most clans don't," Naruto inquired once more. "You'll see it soon enough." Sakura asked their sensei, "Why did you hesitate there for a moment?" "You'll understand when you see it." Indeed, they did. Zaku had apparently fired his arm-air blasters right into Shino's face, leaving him neither completely unharmed nor fatally wounded, but with bugs crawling out of the tears in his skin. "Now that I think back, I remember. I felt like I saw a bug crawl into him," Sakura shook her head. "After he had it scout around, it probably did," Kakashi remarked. Laughing, Naruto asked his disgruntled opponent, "What even are Kekai Genkai?" "The eyes of the Uchiha are swirly, the Hyuga are veiny, the Nara play with shadows, and the Aburame are home to freaking bugs. The truth is nobody really knows. Certain people have unique talents from birth and are able to pass them on. Sometimes they are not even inherited by members of the same clan. One style that was never passed down is the wood style of the first Hokage, which originated in a clan without any notable Kekai Genkai. That guy in the cat mask used it in the forest, though." Beneath his mask, Kakashi winced. "He's a special case." "You know him, I wonder? Did you know he was following me?" He narrowed his eyes. He gave him a sock in the stomach after receiving silence in response. "Naruto," Sakura started to get between them, opening her mouth to say something, but she stopped when she saw the pain in his eyes. The Hokage probably forbade him from speaking about it. Sasuke stood up and placed a hand on his shoulder. "Am I correct?" "Sorry, Naruto, it wasn't my call," Kakashi replied. Distracted eyes focused on their own personal drama, he said, "Oh, just stop with the sorry, concerned dad bullshit. You're no different than the old man." He turned back to the fight below. His gaze strayed to his former pupil, who was putting on a worried look at Team 7, and Orochimaru forced himself not to lick his lips at the debacle. It reminded him of his issues with Sarutobi, albeit not nearly to the same degree as the schism between them was, but it was something he could work with. The Sound Ninja took the blow, and Shino's bugs surrounded him. Seeing 2 enemies on either side of him, Zaku extended his arms to blast them away, and to the surprise of almost everyone, his arms exploded off him, the bugs crawling out of his detached palms. Shino then sauntered over and simply pushed him down before turning to leave. As the medic ninja arrived, Hayate held up an arm and declared, "Winner, hello, Shino Aburame." Holy crap, that was fucking hardcore, man. Naruto leaped on to the railing and held his body over the edge. "Why have you kept this hidden?" As he continued to return to his team, the young man adjusted his shades, saying, "For the right moment." Congratulations, Shino, Hinata replied. Even Naruto acknowledged you. As Kiber realized his teammate was a real bug person, he stopped himself from giving him a shoulder pat and said, "Great job, man." As Shino whispered, "I expect the same from you both." Recognition from Naruto. A skilled, brutal, and stylish performance, but I suppose that is synonymous with Naruto's acknowledgement. Kurenai's odd red eyes, which were naturally fixed on the bandaged boy, witnessed the drama unfold during the fight. Kakashi boasted to the others about how well he was doing, and although his team's performance was clearly superior, their relationship seemed strained at that very moment. Moving on to the next game, Hayate uttered. It said, "Mitsumi Tsurugi vs Kankuro" on the screen. The final member of Kabuto's group, Mitsumi, descended. "I'll demonstrate to you my unique qualities from the other two." Kankuro sneered as he followed suit, saying, "You've got to be kidding me. If your teammates are a bunch of weaklings, it's obvious you are too. You two hooded weirdos are so damned pitiful. Get this over with so we can head to my match." Naruto bellowed. "You groped my sister, asshole." Almost everyone looked at the typical troublemaker. "I have no regrets." He smiled at Temari's flushed face, saying, "That bitch deserved a spanking." Red-faced too, Hinata twitched and pulled out her Byakugan, saying, "En Naruto." Kurenai touched her shoulder and said, "I apologize, my love." She arched an eyebrow in concern at her growing agitation. Some men just aren't good for women and don't know how to be. Get in a fight already, you moron." Much to everyone's surprise, Hinata yelled. Naruto was on the verge of jumping into the arena. Kurenai shook her head, sensing that this would end up being that kind of relationship. Unrequited and unaware love was a troublesome thing as her female student froze in awe at his acknowledgement, forgetting his transgressions. Fakira knelt down and tipped her red face over Sasuke's shoulder, whispering, "So Hinata might have a thing for Naruto." "I don't understand," he blinked. "Me either." The orange-clad boy pivoted and said, "What are you guys whispering about?" He smirked and said, "I know it's about me. Who else might it be?" "Watch out, whore," Sakura correctly charged. "I am just naturally awesome." Below, the match was underway when Kakashi shook his head. There remained 8 remaining. Below Team 7, Sand Villager Kankuro faced off against one of their allies, who was actually an Orochimaru spy. But none of them were truly interested in the fight, aside from Kakashi. The teenager with the face paint defeated Naruto easily already, and the other one appeared to be a member of a weak team. The attention was already diverted by his and Hinata's outbursts about the Sand Ninja's sister. When it appeared that his opponent would not give up, the Leaf Ninja crushed his neck and wrapped him up like an octopus. "Wowie, you killed a painted whore I beat by literally stepping on," said Naruto. "Congratulations on being top weakling." "What did you say?" Kankuro exclaimed as his head turned to confront the elastic man, who turned out to be a puppet. When the loaded held unwrapped to reveal the real Kankuro, the outfit collapsed. The strange puppet crushed the man's bones by extending several arms with a few finger movements. A few people, including Hayate, winced at the booming chorus. "Winner, Kankuro!" Naruto sneered, "A little old to be playing with dolls, huh?" The ninja who used puppets flipped him off with a "Hey, fuck you. Stop making a fool of yourself and return here before I kill you," Gaara uttered, sending shivers down the spines of his siblings and teammate. Kankuro started to run, and Naruto nodded. "Keep going. We all know you're a bitch." Kakashi reached for his shoulder, but the boy's crimson eyes stopped him. He noticed his teammates' equally worried looks. They were all aware that beneath his stiffness and spite, he was an academy delinquent who maintained his facade to make himself feel better. "Naruto," Sasuke declared, carrying out their sensei's botched move. He turned around, his eyes noticeably warmer but still stern. The other boy said, "What?" pointing to the announcement screen, so he glanced at it, drawing the attention of their other teammate. That said, "Sakura Haruno vs Ino Yamanaka." Naruto turned to the astonished girl and said, "Yes. It's finally your time to show that pig bitch." With a sly smile, Sasuke nodded to her. "Let them know. Let all of us know how much you've changed since the academy." At their words, a fitting pink tint appeared on her face. She leaped to her feet and said, "I will." Sakura gave a fist pump and leaped onto the balcony railing, launching herself into the air and twisting all the way down while channeling chakra into her legs. "I'm going to show all of you," she exclaimed. Anko whistled at the display, and Naruto cheered. Their former classmates found it a bit excessive, but that was to be expected after spending so much time with their poster boy for needless flashes of talent. Some jonin considered it unnecessary. One such person was Kakashi, though it would be unhelpful to mention him. Ino twitched before attempting the same as she approached the stairs normally. As soon as the girl's feet touched the ground, Sakura smiled smugly. It was all she could do not to laugh at the agonized yelp that her former rival made. She wanted to at least throw her off, even though it wasn't her exact plan to lure her into possibly injuring herself before the match started. Shikamaru shook his head, asking, "Really? Ino, you know you lack the conditioning for that kind of thing." Glancing back, Ino gestured accusingly at her teammate. "Just whose side are you on?" He let out a moan. "Apparently not yours if it means telling you breaking your legs is stupid, so troublesome." Asuma said, "Live and let learn, Shikamaru," and Choji nodded. The two were more than a respectable distance apart from one another. Sakura's eyes remained smug, while Ino's glowed with rage. Their default setting was usually anger, but not today. There was something to prove. Hayate extended his arm and pushed it downward. "Begin." "I don't want to fight with you over boys right now," she stated, removing her hairpiece from her forehead. Ino gave a blink. "What? You don't compliment Sasuke at all, and I've become so much stronger than you to the point you're really an afterthought." Naruto began to applaud. "Damn, Sakura's talking shit. She's not the type to look at her accomplishments or go out of her way to really hurt people," Kakashi stated. He turned to the boys and said, "She doesn't want Ino to hold back on her, so she can prove to herself she's changed." With an eye smile, he returned the attention to the girls below. Sakura's felt inadequate for a long time now. When in Wave, she was so happy she could do the tree exercise because she felt like you two were far beyond her reach. I'm sure, win or lose, this will help her. Retrieving her own forehead protector from her waist, Ino wrapped it around the object it was supposed to protect. "I'm going to make you regret those words." Sakura tied hers around her forehead and said, "Please. If all you have to offer is threats, this is going to be over before I can work up a sweat." With a bulging forehead vein in response to her statement, Sakura leaned aside as Ino lunged forward with a punch. She ended up overextending herself because of her rage and carelessness. She was too late to respond, and she couldn't imagine her old whiny friend spinning her leg out in front of her. Sakura retreated with a spring in her step that brought to mind Naruto's energetic, playfully demanding footwork. She had no intention of imitating her teammate. He was the fastest she had seen, and his style was the closest to Rock Lee's, who launched himself in all directions. Observing his teammate stand up, Shikamaru remarked, "She's letting Sakura unbalance her, figuratively and literally." Asuma gave a nod. "Gotta let them live and learn, little man. Idiots or women, because they're both troublesome." Asuma grinned and clenched his cigarette, saying, "I know what I'm going to tell your mother if I ever run across her again." He let out a moan. "You're a troublesome sensei." He pointed down at the arena and said, "Everything's troublesome to you, Shikamaru. Now focus." With a more calculated approach, Ino lined up a right hook while preparing a left jab. With a swipe of her left hand, Sakura pushed her back and leaned in to shield herself from a potential right blow. If she hadn't pushed, it would have momentarily shocked her. "You touched my boob." Sakura smirked and asked, teasing her with a facetious tone, What boobs? Just in time, she caught the enraged fist with her raised elbow. Because elbow blocks have the fortunate side effect of shattering your opponent's knuckle bones if they punch too hard, Kakashi taught her that they're excellent for defense. Ino dropped out of combat mode and blinked as she stepped back, shivering. Are you fighting seriously with me right now? Oh, of course I am, Ino kicked, but Sakura crept back and her foot met nothing. Her eyebrow went up. Are you sure? She asked as she leaned to the side to avoid a right, dodged a left jab of her own, and then turned to face each other. She dodged a twisting blow, caught a leg with both arms, and hauled the woman to the ground, saying, I mean seriously? She disengaged, rolled aside, and got to her feet. From her side of the balcony, Tenten shook her head. That girl came here expecting the fight of her life. Kunoichi are too quick to disregard taijutsu in favor of other arts, Neji remarked, peering over the top of what he was unable to perceive as combat. Her opponent is a Yamanaka. She likely neglected her physical abilities in favor for her mental abilities, thinking the former unnecessary and unlikely to ever be used. This fight was decided before it began. Their fighting spirit is to be commended nonetheless, Lee yelled. Guy gave a nod. That's right, Lee. Even if your skills are lacking, what shines brightest is your youthful spirit. Kiba hummed, attempting to ignore Lee and Guy's strange behavior. Sakura's gotten stronger too. With some curiosity, Hinata looked at the other two girls as one got up. She pursed her lips. She's been holding back and relying on nothing but her defense. Ino's the most driven of her team. Their sensei is easygoing, so I doubt she had anyone to really push her. Asuma might be a bit of a slouch, but he knows how to motivate his team, said Kurenai. She turned to Team 7, who were proudly watching the match, and said, No sensei can teach his students what they don't want to learn. Kakashi is outright hours late to everything, but he has two absolutely driven team members. She kept up because she wanted to reach their level. Ino is failing because she grew complacent, while Sakura realized she was lacking. Kurenai-sensei, how are you aware of Asuma's method of instruction? Hinata turned to face her icy instructor. Focus on the match. Ino tightened her jaw. Quit making a fool out of me. I'm not really doing anything, Sakura declared. She shook her head, put a hand to her chin, and studied the expression in her old friend's eyes. During your missions, did you ever feel like you were about to die? What? She returned her hand to her side. She asked, peering down, were you ever in danger? On our first real mission, Kakashi-sensei was captured by the enemy, and we had to face down Zabuza Mamachi to get him back. It was like staring at death itself coming to kill us. She looked at the others. Naruto didn't flinch, made clones, and started throwing all his ninja tools. Sasuke used the hail of weapons to get a single shuriken past his guard. When Kakashi-sensei was freed, I managed to put Zabuza under a genjutsu, which let him ram a water dragon into him. She chuckled. It was supposed to be a C-rank mission, but it turned into an A rank. Sasuke wasn't joking back at the academy. Sakura winced and said, not at all. She laughed at the recognition in their onlookers' eyes and said, he almost died. Naruto and Kakashi-sensei fought an entire mob of people to the death, but Naruto came back drenched in their blood. They call it the Wave Massacre. Her old friend frowned as she said, and Naruto and Sasuke did nothing but train every fucking day after that happened, so they never have to be put in that position again. I felt so useless, even when I did something, so I've been training too. As so have I. With a hand to rub the back of her head, she said, Ino, I haven't even used any jutsu yet or even tried to hurt you. To be honest, I'm feeling really bummed out right now. I was expecting a challenge. The girl drew and threw a shuriken, then her vein burst. Expect this. She reached a finger into the open hole in the shuriken and let it ring around it. She pulled her finger back and let it drop to the ground, saying, I did. Kakashi would have thrown that back at you and told you to stop being so predictable. He exclaimed, it's true. Ino yelled back. You stay out of this, weirdo. She joined her thumbs, ring, and pointer fingers together. Shikamaru furrowed his brow. You idiot, what are you doing? What's it look like? He took a drag from his cigarette and said, Gotta let them live and learn, Shikamaru. His eyes widened as Sakura made hand seals that he and every other Jonin recognized, saying, Can't save someone from themselves. Kakashi, what the hell did you teach your student? The concerned weirdo cocked a head. He laughed at the questioning looks from his other genin, saying, She said she wanted to be useful. Just watch. After Sakura completed the seals, Ino fell and began convulsing. She dashed over without pausing. With her elbow tucked under her chin, she bent over her and wrapped the remainder of her body around her longtime friend. She dispelled the genjutsu she had put her under and, grateful for the hands-on instruction Sasuke had given her, ended her with a rear naked choke as suggested by Naruto. Winner, Hayate exclaimed, lowering his arm to embrace the winner as she released her rival. Sakura Haruno. She bowed and made her way back up the wall to her hospitable teammates. Hey. Naruto jumped up and cheered, You owned that bitch. I don't know what that jutsu was, but it was a nice finisher, Sasuke replied. He touched her shoulder with his hand. He bit back a laugh, smirking at her flushed face. When the exams are over, you should start training with us in full instead of asking for pointers. Every statement was truthful. He could not hold his current self against the girl who stood in front of him. That was an interrogation jutsu all Jonin are trained to resist to make Jonin in the first place, Kakashi stated. It's supposed to break your opponent's will so they tell you everything, but I didn't expect you to use it like that. Sakura flinched, recalling his demonstration. She turned to face Ino on the other balcony, who had regained consciousness moments after she had lost it, and said, Well, I didn't take all that pain to wait for a good time to use it. And I think I needed to show her the gap between us. That wasn't a real fight, but I want to have one with her. I didn't think that one-eyed bastard would teach that genjutsu of all things. Asuma was grumbling. Either he's slave driving his students or they're milking him for all he's worth. With a Yua, Shikamaru spoke. Get your mind out of the gutter, kid. Yua, he sneered. What did I say? Make me stronger, Ino yelled, putting an end to that uncomfortable exchange. She growled and gritted her teeth. I've never been so humiliated in my entire life. Asuma's eyes hardened. He cast a sidelong glance at the winning squad and said, Finally ready to take the shinobi life seriously, huh? Returning his attention to his pupil, he took a drag from his cigarette and said, They nearly got killed on their first real mission. Not exactly the best experience, but it's one hell of a kick in the ass. To tell you the truth, they're already on the level of Chunin. This exam is more of a formality, one they're having fun with and laughing at you for finding hard. Shikamaru was annoyed when Ino's eyes filled with tears of frustration. Damn it. His smile broadened as he patted her on the head and said, Remember, there's always someone better than you. Which makes it really fun when you surpass them. I'm going to make sure all three of you can rub their attitudes back in their faces soon enough. Shikamaru moaned, Oh no. Asuma chuckled. Oh yeah. Choji, who was still chewing, asked, Can we get barbecue after we train? Well, you have to train first. There was a determined expression on his plump face. Let's do it. Difficult, Shikamaru whispered. They're announcing the next match. Temari vs Tenten was displayed on the announcement screen. The woman from Team Guy gave Lee a quick high five before heading downstairs. Seeing the other Kunoichi's flushed face, she laughed. You got your ass smacked by the dead last. She did, exclaimed Naruto. Temari sneered at her rival. Shut up. Like you could put up a fight against anyone Gaara is interested in. We'll see, smirking, Tenten said. Hayate lowered his arm. Begin. For Tenten, things did not go well. Really, not a single positive thing worked out for her. She displayed her extensive weaponry, all of which were rendered ineffective by her opponent's Wind Jutsu. As a member of a taijutsu specialist team, taijutsu was her fallback, but she was never close enough to land a single blow. Her back first position on the sand Kunoichi's furled fan signaled the end of the match. Temari scoffed, tilting her head to better assess her vanquished prey, calling it pathetic. "At least I have an ass." Naruto chuckled. "That you do?" Hayate exclaimed, "Winner, Temari." With a red face, she threw Tenten into Lee's arms while dropping numerous weapons behind her. "Damn, I was hoping to see how far she'd go." With a fist, Lee exclaimed, "Is this how you treat someone who gave their all in battle?" Bushy brows, "You do realize if this were a real fight, she would have just killed her, right?" Naruto grumbled. "Stop the romantic nonsense. We are tools to be employed and discarded," he exclaimed, ignoring his allies' worried glances. Temari used her fan to block a hurried kick from Lee, saying, "I'm with a jackass for once. Get your shit and get out." "Please, you're as pathetic as she is." Lee winced. "What did you say?" The guy's body waved. "Stop. Not now, Lee." Once more instilling fear in his team, Gaara yelled, "How many times are you two idiots going to hold up the matches? You've been declared the winner. Stop wasting everyone's time, Temari." With a sly smile, Guy placed a hand on Lee's shoulder as she sprinted towards the balcony. "You should be careful. This kid is strong." As Team Guy picked up all the remaining ninja tools and headed back to their balcony, Naruto chimed in, "I beat almost all of them by just jumping on them. You're not special." Kiba nearly burst out laughing. As Hinata began to shake once more, he froze and said, "He did literally spank one of them in front of the other." Glancing down, he saw that Akamaru was acting more out of fear than rage. "I'm sure it W." Hinata yelled, "Just start the next damn match already," once more. Naruto leaped to his feet. He didn't notice her quick pacification, but she said, "Yes. Be me, be me, be me, be me, be." The image, Shikamaru Nara vs Kin Tsuchai, was visible. He pouted, "Oh, come on the fuck on, Shikamaru. This shit's going to take forever." Asuma laughed, seeing the most slothful genin get up and walk. He's not wrong. The opposite happened, much to everyone's surprise. Kin attempted to pull off a fake-out genjutsu using a needle trick, but Shikamaru saw right through it. Using the Kekai Genkai of his clan, he trapped her and then threw a well-aimed shuriken. And with that, the young woman's head crashed into the wall behind her. It appeared to be the fastest after the previous two games. Hayate lowered his arm. "Winner, Shikamaru Nara." Naruto chuckled. "Fuck me, you actually won." Everyone else seemed to feel the same way. "Since when the hell could you fight?" As he headed to the balcony, Shikamaru exclaimed, "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "No, seriously, you spent taijutsu training sessions sitting on your ass. That one time we almost got robbed in the red light district, you just made the guy slam his head against the wall." Asuma and Ino narrowed their eyes at a nervous Shikamaru. "Red light district?" It was Naruto's idea. "We went for the first time," Choji remarked while chomping. Shikamaru let out a sigh. "You've become troublesome." "Were three of you friends?" inquired Ino. He shook his head, saying, "Detention buddies." Naruto nearly knocked Choji's teeth out one time. Pretty sure that doesn't qualify as friendly. "He hasn't changed a bit, huh?" Humming, Choji swallowed. He was doing just fine when the exams started. Something's going on. The other members of the team gave him a shocked look before turning to look at the orange and blue mummy, who was practically gagging to enter the arena. Orochimaru also took notice. His pawns were gone, but it didn't bother him. He really didn't think they would get as far as they did. Whatever drama had transpired before ignited the Jinchuriki. A part of him was waiting to see if his wish to be independent of the nine-tailed fox would prevail over it. Sasuke turned into a very alluring vessel, so he was searching for something to make the other less appealing. The announcement screen then showed Kiba Inusuka vs. Naruto Uzumaki. The bloodlust was felt by all. The first boy in question sighed, a weak, feral thing, after taking a deep breath. "Finally," he exclaimed as he leaped onto the railing using all fours, fell, and caught himself with his hands. He ignored his organ's cry and stood up. "Someone I can tear apart." Not to be outdone, Kiba also leaped over the railing. He went up to the boy as he did the same, saying, "Your clones got lucky back in the forest. That trick won't work on me again." Raising an eyebrow at the apprehensive creature peeking out of his opponent's sweater, Naruto questioned, "What's with the puppy?" He removed Akamaru and placed him down. "Dumbass, he's fighting with me." He turned to face the proctor and asked, "Is that against the rules?" "Ninja tools are the same as animals and bugs," Hayate retorted. Naruto shrugged and gave a A sound. 2 for 1 special, like at Ikaraku, I guess. Kiba sneered, "I can smell your wounds, dumbass." The pressure all around the arena focused on him, and he broke out into a cold sweat, saying, "You're not going to outlast me or take more than one good hit. Training with Sasuke doesn't make you Sasuke." Naruto's eyes conveyed the same mood as the words that came out of his mouth. "Sasuke would leave something left of you." He stomped forward, almost toppling over, saying, "I'm going to break you apart like Mizuki, and keep going until I've had enough." Kakashi's gaze grew slender. "Naruto!" He yelled back, his voice ringing with hurt and frustration. "Shut up!" He returned his attention to his opponent, saying, "This is my fight." Hinata was trembling with anxiety. She saw the boy who was Naruto in one of his lowest points, both emotionally and physically. Outside of their camaraderie, she didn't feel particularly attached to Kiba, but she also didn't want to see him suffer. She had no desire to support either. Team 7 as a whole thought the same thing. Prior to the start of the Chunin exams, he was doing well. Then, whatever business he had with Neji, the past began to fester. They watched him freeze in fear when the first test began. The second test, with Orochimaru interfering, almost killed him. His relationship with the Hokage, his secret, and the trust he had with their sensei had all been betrayed. Their friend was going to blow up because it was getting worse. Hayate raised his arm in the air and then lowered it. "Begin." Before Naruto could react, Kiba made a hand seal, dropped to all fours, and slammed into him, sending him rolling back. He faced Hayate. "Proctor, see." With blood streaming from his mouth, Naruto leaped to his feet and launched himself backward with all the force he could muster, landing at the boy's side despite the internal screams he was experiencing. "Hey," he said, grabbing Kiba by the face, tripping him, pushing and stopping when his head was only an inch off the ground. "Take this seriously, you mangy mutt." Taking pleasure in the fear in Kiba's trembling eyes, he released Kiba, rising into his normal stance and staggered back to gain some distance. "You've done it already. Just look at you, man," he scoffed as he stood up. "Fucking your own body up to show off, jumping around like a crazed animal and all covered in bandages." As he collapsed onto all fours, Kiba's gaze hardened and he spoke. "I have no idea what the hell is going on with you, but I think you should drop out of this for your own good, before I put you down." When Naruto opened his eyes and revealed his crispy blue, he scowled and closed his eyes to conceal the redness he could feel in them. "If you're going to play bleeding heart shithead, I guess I'll have to draw the dog out of you," he said, taking several deep breaths. "Man, screw your dog puns." "What the heck?" They hummed in unison and stroked their chins as he made a single shadow clone and stood behind it, perfectly leaning on the other. "Wanna know what's really worth giving a fuck about and fucking?" "That sister of yours," the clone replied, before the real one asked, and they both smiled. Kurenai winced and said, "Oh no." She smiled, apologetic to her kunoichi in training who was blushing, trembling, and confused. The Inuzuka are a little protective of their family. "What are you saying about Hana?" Kiba twitched. "Hana, she went by that name. When we were kids and she came to pick you up, I think she was about 14. She already had big tits." the real Naruto exclaimed, extending his hands and kneading the air. The clone, instead of putting his wriggly hands in front of him, did so near his hips, wrists facing up. And a nice ass, Hana's totally stacked now, isn't she? They shuddered. I'm going to murder you with fucking. I'm going to give that Hana and her plump ass a spanking, fuck her and pup her, smirked Naruto, dispelling his clone. The runt of the litter lapping at those big tits will name Kiba, he said, his smirk turning into a joyful grin. No need to worry, I'll take good care of your sister. That was the final straw for him. Kiba pulled 2 pills from his pouch, tossed one to Akamaru, who caught it in his mouth and swallowed one himself. His nails turned into claws, and a crimson Akamaru leaped onto his back. He sealed his hand with his fingers, transforming them into feral Kibas in time to the barking of their pet. Was he simply doping himself? Naruto inquired of the proctor. Soldier pills are ninja tools, said Hayate, nodding. Crutches are a ninja tool too, I suppose. Hayate coughed and said, well, yes. All right. Naruto might actually be screwed. That's a stimulant that lets you keep going for 3 days and nights without resting, Asuma chanted. With a tongue click, Shikamaru said, how in the world is that tournament allowed? Ninja tool, was Asuma's response. The Kibas jumped at their foe, expecting to pounce, but leaping leaves one vulnerable unless one can apply more force while in the air. One of the Kibas caught Naruto's full attention, and he put his hands on his arm, adding force to his leap that was matched by his slamming into the other Kiba. Is that it? Sasuke can see in slow motion, but I don't need the Sharingan to read you like a book, Naruto said, swallowing the blood in his mouth. He dunked under a Kiba's lunging slash for his throat, leaned to the side, and stuck out his elbow in the other's face in their vain attempt to trap him, sending him back. You've just gotten faster, more powerful, perhaps. However, skill, precision, timing, and instinct is far more important than strength and speed. It's over with you. The Kibas launched themselves, spinning at him from 2 different sides. Fang over F. I don't need pills, Kekai Genkai, or any pet to beat the ever-loving shit out of you, Naruto said, barely landing on his trembling feet as he leaped and split-kicked. Using their own bodies against them once more, thumb pointing to his bandaged face, he said, I'm falling apart and ripped to shreds, but I'm still giving you your ass. That fact nearly made Orochimaru drool. His body's potential was unquestionably unmatched in terms of stamina, chakra, and vitality, and there was not a hint of the tailed beast overcoming his conceit or ego. It deeply troubled him that he had to choose between the 2 candidates. Speaking of ass, I wasn't actually lying to you. I really want your sisters. Naruto shook his head, looked to the nearest wall, and moved so it was behind him. Even he was getting tired. He needed to end the fight because his opponent had been using a combat drug that had been robbing him of stamina for several days. His plan wasn't the most creative, but he was going to add his own unique touch to it. I've already got a really nice pair of tits. He glanced at Anko, who was blushing, a gesture that Hinata saw more than anyone else. But I'm the kind of man who needs the whole package, simply cannot be content with anything less. Hana will therefore be ideal for me. The Kibas roared in rage, piling themselves on top of one another once more. Not a chance in hell. Make sure you don't look foolish in front of your brother-in-law. After taking a deep breath, closing his eyes, bobbling his head, and tapping his left heel against the ground, Naruto began to snap with his right hand. Is he going to start dancing? Ino, flushed from the boy's incessant comments, blinked at the shift in tone and manner. Shikamaru remarked, he's timing and baiting something, understanding whose scheme had motivated him. Instinct, timing, and precision. I may disagree with you about what it means to be a shinobi, but I agree that is what skill is, Naruto, yelled Lee. His stance gave him away exactly what he was going to do. I'm pretty sure he'd look down on your style, Tenten said, shaking her head. It's very similar to Kiba's, but less so. The twisted asshole is not too bad. And all of that while he's injured, Guy gasped. His spirit is blazing, however malicious, Guy cheered. You haven't said a thing, but I think you're too busy learning from this fight. He turned to Neji, taking his silence as acceptance. Okay. I'm not sure if he's back to his usual self or still losing it, Sakura remarked, lowering her gaze to her punk partner. Throughout the entire battle, Sasuke was scowling and saying, he's still losing it. When he leaped back to confront Kiba, he had the opportunity to end the match, but Naruto used his taunts to expose all of his tricks and humiliate him. With a sorrowful tone, Kakashi remarked, that's how he used to be, tearing other people down to build himself up. Whispering, crying on the inside, Sasuke said, you fucking die. The Kibas launched themselves at their target, one above the other. I'm not dying here. Naruto stood up straight and looked back, noticing that the wall Kiba had changed to a normal white Akamaru. He walked to the dust cloud where the real one was hidden, stumbling with every step. You are... Stop, Naruto, Hinata yelled. Okay. He looked up and saw tears streaming down her cheeks. He opened his mouth to say something terrible, but was unable to think of anything. Her eyes held only worry and sadness, the same as the day they met. She was blinking, and the desire and urge for violence he felt subsided. The victor is, Hayate, seeing Kiba and his dog both out, lifted a hand in Naruto's direction. Naruto Uzumaki. Hearing those words, Naruto almost passed out, landing on one knee. Kakashi's body waved, but he slapped it away, getting up and stepping forward before collapsing onto two of his teammates' shoulders. Sasuke remarked, you really dragged that out. Hinata really cried over you, Sakura said, her blush matching the color of her hair. What? With blurry vision, Naruto turned to face her. She was crying over Kiba, he said. Yeah, Kiba, that's probably why she began to yell when you did. With a raised eyebrow, he said, why do you sound so angry at me? There are many reasons for me to be angry. How did that come about? Naruto moaned, don't yell, please. Everything hurts. I wasn't trying to be stylish on purpose. I was trying to overcome an enemy by making him underestimate me in a wounded state, and it worked. Sasuke gave him a look. It wouldn't hurt if you just ended it in that first attack. You were attempting to project an air of coolness while terrifying anyone who is unaware of your true nature. I'm sorry. There were still a few matches left, but Team 7 appeared to be the strongest team overall, with more than half of the Sand Team's matches seemingly won by a single member of Team 7, as they returned to their balcony with all eyes on their most vicious and injured member.
I will continue the story in next part. Till then, we weep offline.